Hey there, it's Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. Feels like a very long time since I've been filming in front of my bookshelves, but you know what? It was a long holiday, it was a lovely holiday, I enjoyed myself, and I hope you guys enjoyed my random holiday videos. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the books that I read in August, and you know, it's funny because August was a little bit of a weird month for me. I basically didn't read anything for the beginning of August, and I waited until Readerama and Thrillerathon were starting, and I read for like both readathons at the same time and just read on holiday, and I enjoyed myself. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you about the books that I read. The first book that I read was on the first day of my holiday, and it was for Readerama, and it was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This book is set in an African-based fantasy world where a group of people called the Diviners, who have had magic and can do various magical things, have sort of been victimized. And the king decided that he was going to kill all of the Diviners and just leave their children, as they hadn't actually developed their magic yet. The story takes place in a time where magic has basically doesn't exist anymore, and the Diviners are basically treated as second-class citizens. This story follows some characters as they are trying to make magic come back to the world. There are a couple of different perspectives, which is something I'm not usually a fan of, but I actually really enjoyed it, apart from one perspective because I just really didn't enjoy, and like, I just really didn't care for Anand's perspective at all. I just didn't like it. Overall, really enjoyed this book. I'm so glad I finally read it. I think the size was putting me off, and like, I'm just really glad that I finally picked it up. If you've not checked this one out yet, you definitely should. It's really interesting, and just in case anyone's noticed, this weird little bit here, my book fell apart in the sun, so I'm gonna have to buy it again if I want it to look aesthetically pleasing, because like, this will not do. It was a sad time. I was only out in the sun for an hour and this happened. Devastated. The next book that I read was Copycat by Erica Spindler. This is when Thrillerathon had started, so this covered both Readerama and Thrillerathon challenges. This book follows two female detectives as they are on the hunt for a serial killer who is targeting little girls. And the little girl that has been murdered at the beginning of this book is very reminiscent of previous murders that took place a couple of years ago that one of the detectives worked on. So we are following a copycat killer with some interaction to a serial killer. It was okay. It's fine. If you want to hear more about my thoughts, go and check out my mini review. It was fine. It was a procedural crime thriller, and I'd read more of Erica Spindler's work just to see if it's any better, but I'm not raving about this. This was just a thing that I read when I was on holiday, and I'm kind of forgetting details of it. Strong female characters? Yes. Stereotypical female characters? Yes. The next book that I picked up was Sweet Pea by C.J. Scoose, and this was just what I needed. Straight after reading Copycat and feeling so meh about it, Sweet Pea is exactly what I needed. This book follows Rhiannon, who suffered a traumatic incident when she was a child, and as an adult, she has various issues, one of them being that she is a killer and goes around killing people. But there is something about this book, and I think it comes from the tone of voice and the relatability to Rhiannon, even though she's crazy and a killer and all of these things. But when you hear her voice and you think, yeah, these people are really fucking annoying, yeah. For me, it's really interesting because I do work in publishing, so a lot of these things are very relatable. Rhiannon's an editorial assistant at a newspaper, and it's very interesting to see various things that she says and does. I need to read the next one. So good. I just sort of fell for it and couldn't stop reading, and just if you're after it with a very British and very, relatable, weirdly relatable, worryingly relatable voice, then check this one out. It's so good, and I think more people should read it. I'm glad so many people read it for Thrillerathon because it was so good. The next book that I read was Sleep by C.L. Taylor. This book follows a woman who's been in a traumatic incident that affects her very greatly, and she decides that she's going to move to Scotland, a very remote area, a complete change of job, and she starts to suspect that someone's stalking her, and it's really good, very interesting. I was not really sure where the book was going for the beginning part of it, and then there's a twist that I was like, oh my god, and I was hooked. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this book is it has a trope that I really love. It's when people are stuck in like remote locations and they can't get out and there's a killer there. Don't know why, really love that trope. And this does it in such a good way. There's lots of twists and turns, lots of guessing whodunit, and I just really enjoyed it. It was so good. The actual person who did it, like, I got it was them, but not their motivations and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was really interesting. If you enjoy like that sort of remote locations sort of thriller with the whodunit aspect, then definitely check it out. Next up, I picked up Cause of Death by Patricia Cornwell. I think this is the 7th book in the Case Copycat series. Don't quote me on that because there's a giant series and I don't remember. So in this book we follow Case Copycat, who is a chief medical examiner for Virginia. And honestly, this was a bit different from the other books. The previous books in this series are more closed, but this one involved aspects of like the military and the Navy and various other things that happen. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but it went in a direction I wasn't expecting it to, and by like the end 100 pages I was like, oh shit hit the fan here. So it was really interesting, and as soon as I finished this one I was like, yeah, I really need to read the next one. At the end of the previous book sort of left it on a note that felt like things were quite rounded off, and this one was like, you know, I want to see how the character deals with the events that have happened in this book, and it's really interesting. If you're interested in Patricia Cornwell's writing, it was a really interesting turn for this series to take, and I enjoyed it. So next up I decided to go for a complete change of pace and pick up a book that I just decided to buy on a whim in the airport, and that is The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck by Sarah Knight. Now, this book is sort of self-helpy, and it's sort of a parody on, what's that Marie Kondo thing? I never watched it, the thing where she tells you to like declutter your lives. Well, this is basically a book that says declutter your lives of the fucks that you give. It was funny. It made me laugh a lot. There were a lot of like really quotable moments that I was like, yeah, that is really funny, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know how useful it is. I give a lot of fucks about a lot of things, and I'm trying to give less fucks about things because nobody's got time for that. I don't have enough mental space for all the fucks that I give currently. And it's made me think, but yeah, it's not actually helped me that much. So if you're after like a funny book that's sort of self-helpy, I guess this is fine. It's a very 3-star read, but it is what it is. Made me laugh. Okay, so here's the part of my reading month where like I didn't care anymore. I didn't really want to read any of the physical books that I brought with me, and well, things took a turn. So if you've been on this channel for long enough, then you will know that I used to do a series called Daily Deal Disasters, where I downloaded really shit-sounding books from BookBub that were like free 99p, like weird romance erotica things that just sound so bizarre that you kind of like, what? So I read them and I used to like review them. So I decided to pick a few up, and wow. All I can say is wow. Now, I don't know how non-spoilery I can be in these, so if you're interested in any of these really shit erotica things, then maybe don't listen to what I'm about to say about them, but like, if you're not, these are what these books are about, so yeah. The first book that I read of these was Claimed by the King by Lorelei Moon. Now I picked it up because it was like a weird donate a tribute to the bear shifter giant of your choice. Honestly, the premise of this book was like, oh, there's an island, like, I was guessing sort of off the coast of like an alternate reality Scotland sort of thing, and like there are these people that live on this island that are called the Giants, and every like 8 years the people on the mainland donate a lady to go and be taken by the Giants, and yeah, they're basically brides so that, you know, the bear people don't get all like incestuous. And yeah, it was really, really boring. It was so dull. Like, the descriptions were ridiculous, and there's so many things I was like, why? And it wasn't even sexy. This is like the worst part about it, is that this book sort of makes out as if it's gonna be like a shit erotica with like bear shifters and like Scottish men, and it wasn't. It was just really dull. And the thing that annoyed me about it the most is it's clearly like the first part of a book, but it's been made into 3 books, so you have to buy all 3 books if you wanted to read them, which really pisses me off because it could just be 1 book and like actually make sense. Anyway, it was shit. Don't read that. Next one, I downloaded a bunch and I got one of my friends to pick which one I should read. Now the title of this one was the reason it got picked, and it's called Daddy's Dark Rules by Nova Edmonds. Now, this book is like a mafia abduction sexy erotica, apparently. That's a genre that I didn't know existed before then. And it's just really fucked up. Like, it basically follows this really, really rich, fucked up mafia boss type guy who's lent money to this family where there's like 4 brothers and a sister. The sister's not really involved in it, and then the brothers are like, oh, well, we can't pay you back, and the dude's like, well, that's okay then, I'll take your sister. And like some of the brothers are like, yeah, sure, okay, yeah, that's fine. And one of them's like, well, don't do that, because that's fucked up. Yeah, they end up taking the sister, and she's like, oh, I don't really want to, but sure, okay, because don't kill my brothers. And then they have like kinky sex and she's totally okay with it, and then she stops him from being murdered. It's a very short book, but all of this happens in like one night. She stops him from being murdered, and then they get married. I don't know, it was weird. It didn't make any sense. I don't really know why she was totally okay with like being sold because of her brothers being dicks, but like apparently some people find that sexy. It's a thing apparently. So read that. And on to the last book that I read this month. It's called Captive of the Horde King by Zoe Bravin. And this was the only one I didn't give a 1 star to. So I'm throw it out there, give it its dues in that it wasn't, well, it was shit. But this book kind of played on something that quite a lot of people are familiar with, in that it went for the Dany Drogo storyline from Game of Thrones season 1. It's effectively that. That is like the whole story except they're aliens. But like we're starting off on a point that we're familiar with, and it's like, alright then, and you know, I didn't mind Dany Drogo, like it was a cool part of season 1. There was like bits to enjoy about this. It's also just a bit weird. There were obviously a lot of weird sex things that happened, and you know, it is what it is, that happens, I guess. There was like no real difference to him being an alien either, which always really makes me laugh, how like, why'd you even have him as an alien? Why does he need to be an alien? Like, he had a tail. Wasn't used for anything, which I'm kind of glad about, because like that's a little bit fucked up. But what was the point? I don't know. Anyway, that was the thing I read. You all had to listen to it. Cheers. So if you made it this far into the video, I applaud you, because this has been a ride. If you guys would be interested in me doing a Daily Deal Disaster series again, I can kind of try and figure that out if you guys want. If I go into this in any more detail though, it will mostly just be me talking about clefts and sphincters, so... if you want that, then, okay. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!